Welcome to License Tom and my dad listens to this. I'm Juliet the daughter.
And that must make me Kevin the dad.
And Dad, are you wearing your blue suede shoes?
No, I'm wearing my black Skechers at the moment.
Well, crap, I guess you didn't get the memo, because today we are talking about the legendary rock and roll artist, Carl Perkins, and specifically his original Sun Greatest Hits. So, Dad, what do we need to know about Carl?
Well, we need to know that Carl Perkins was born April 9th, 1932, in Tiptonville, Tennessee, the son of poor sharecroppers Louise and Buck Perkins. At age 6, he started working in the cotton fields with his family, whether school was in or not. He lived in a shack with his parents, his older brother Jay and younger brother Clayton. He grew up hearing Southern gospel music sung by white friends in church and black field workers in the cotton fields. He asked his parents for a guitar, but since his family could not afford one, his father made one out of a cigar box and broomstick.
Wow.
Eventually, a neighbor sold Carl's dad a worn-out Gene Autry guitar. When the strings broke, Carl had to retie them because he could not afford new strings, and which also led to bleeding fingers sometimes because of all the knots. Carl taught himself parts of songs he heard and also learned from John Westbrook, a black field worker who played blues and gospel music on an old acoustic guitar. In 1947, the Perkins family moved to Madison County, Tennessee, which was closer to Memphis, thereby exposing Carl to a greater variety of music. He and brother Jay formed a duo, Carl on lead guitar, Jay on vocals and rhythm, which eventually became a trio with Clayton on bass. The Perkins Brothers Band became the hottest band on the Jackson, Tennessee honky-tonk circuit. During the day, Carl worked picking cotton, working in various factories and plants, and at one point was a pan greaser for the Colonial Baking Company. So just 8 hours of greasing pans.
Oh, my God.
He married Valda Kreider in 1953, and they would remain married until Carl's death in 1998.
Oh.
She encouraged Carl to play the circuits full-time. He was writing his own songs and sent demos to Columbia and RCA in New York, but no luck. The companies told Carl this newfangled sound of country and rhythm and blues wasn't going anywhere. In 1954, when Carl heard Elvis Presley on the radio, he knew where he had to go, Sun Records and Sam Phillips. At first, Sam was not crazy about Jay's singing, but he was about Carl's singing and playing. Carl's first song was Movie Mag, and by the second session, a drummer was added, something unheard of at the time.
Wow.
Sam had Carl stick to a more hillbilly type of music. He felt having two artists doing rockabilly, the other being Elvis, would cancel each other out.
That shows how much he knew at the time.
Yeah, well, who knew? But once Sam had sold Elvis's contract to RCA, he let Carl cut loose. And how did Carl respond? With blue suede shoes. It became Sun's first million-selling single.
Wow.
On March 21st, 1956, the Perkins brothers drove to New York to appear on the Perry Como show to perform.
Cool.
But on the way, they got into an accident with a pickup truck in Delaware.
Ooh.
The car landed in a ditch with about a foot of water. The drummer, W.S. Holland, pulled Carl from the water. Carl was unconscious for a whole day.
Oh, my God.
He suffered 3 fractured vertebrae in his neck, a concussion, a broken collarbone, and lacerations all over.
Oof.
Jay had a fractured neck and internal injuries, which eventually led to a brain tumor, and he died in 1958.
Aww.
While recuperating, Carl saw Elvis perform Blue Suede Shoes on the Milton Berle Show. And even though Carl had written and performed the song and sold 1 million copies, people associated the song with Elvis.
That's just literally insult to injury. I didn't mean like that.
Carl was back on his feet towards the end of April. He went on package tours and recorded more sides for Sun. On December 4th, Elvis came by Sun. An impromptu jam session was recorded. It was Carl, Elvis, Johnny Cash, and Jerry Lee Lewis. They were dubbed
The $1 Million Quartet.
And the sessions were released in the United States in 1990.
Which was also the title of a musical about that night that we saw at the Unicorn Theater in the Berkshires.
And if you ever get a chance to see it, highly recommended.
It's a great time.
Meanwhile, Carl was putting out great stuff on Sun, but sales were diminishing. You stupid public. When Johnny Cash moved to Columbia Records in 1958, Carl went with him. The royalty rate was better, but the company's watch-the-clock attitude killed any creative spontaneity. Carl was also drinking, which did not help.
Yeah.
Columbia dropped him in the early 60s. He tried Decca Records, but that didn't go well. He was back playing honky-tonks and thinking of quitting when, in 1964, he got a call from a booking agent offering a tour of England with Chuck Berry.
Nice.
Carl wasn't sure about doing the tour, but Chuck told him they'd be treated like royalty out there. And they were. Get this, the Animals were their backing band.
Wow.
On the last night of the tour, the Beatles showed up backstage. Ringo asked Carl if he could record Honey Don't, and Carl, being no fool, said yes. The Beatles went on to record that song along with Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby and Matchbox, making Carl the artist most covered by the Beatles.
And probably gave him a lot of money, too.
I'm sure it helped. Meanwhile, back in the States, Carl was making a name for himself in country music. In 1968, he toured with Johnny Cash. He wound up going on a 4-day bender, though, passing out.
Oof.
When he came to, he took his last bottle to the beach and threw it in the ocean and vowed to remain sober. He and Johnny supported each other to remain sober, and Carl wound up touring with Johnny for 10 years.
Wow.
Johnny recorded Carl's song Daddy Sang Bass, which hit #1 on the country charts for 6 weeks. Carl recorded more albums, including one with NRBQ called Boppin' the Blues.
How was that?
I haven't heard it yet, but I'm sure it's pretty good. I'll have to see if I can find it somewhere. In 1982, he recorded the song Get It with Paul McCartney on Paul's Tug of War album, which I do have and have heard, and it's good. Paul bought Carl's song catalog in 2003.
Oh.
Carl himself acquired the rights to all his son's songs in 1977. Now, in 1985, he was featured in a live TV special recorded in London, of course, with special guests George Harrison, Ringo Starr, Eric Clapton, Dave Edmunds, and Roseanne Cash.
Cool.
He also made a cameo alongside David Bowie in the John Landis movie Into the Night.
Oh.
And I guess I don't know if they were like hitmen, but they wind up killing each other.
Yeah, they were hitmen. I don't remember Carl, though. I remember David and Jeff Goldblum. I think there's a scene that you can find with all three of them on YouTube. It didn't get good reviews, though.
Yeah. He was also inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame. In 1986, he went back to Sun Studios and recorded Class of 55 with Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Roy Orbison. In 1987, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And in 1989, he co-wrote and played guitar on the Judds' #1 country hit, Let Me Tell You About Love. His last album was Go Cat Go, which came out in 1996. Carl sang duets with Paul, George, Ringo, Bono, Johnny Cash, John Fogerty, Willie Nelson, Paul Simon, and Tom Petty.
Everybody got that? Good.
Okay, there will be a test later.
Yep.
Carl Perkins died on January 19th, 1998 from throat cancer, with which he had been diagnosed back in 1989.
Oh, my God.
And now, just as an aside, we had talked about this off the air.
Yeah.
About how, when Roy died, when they had the traveling Wilburys going, I'm surprised that George didn't ask Carl, hey, you want to be a Wilbury?
I'm surprised, too. Now, when you brought that up, I was like, that's a good point. Why didn't he think of that? Especially considering he was such a huge fan of Carl, too.
Yeah. Now, before Rhino Records became Atlantic Records' official reissue label, they were an independent record company that reissued anything they felt like, anything really that they could get the rights to. The best thing about Rhino was that they really cared, and they still do care, about the sound quality of their releases, something the Bigs were not doing at the time. Their attitude was just release product and get the money. Original Sun Greatest Hits came out in 1986, and it sounds great. The songs aren't in chronological order on the disc, but I can live with that. All of them clock in at less than 3 minutes. So we get 16 songs in 39 minutes.
Nice.
Now, as for me, the only Carl Perkins stuff I knew at the time was Blue Suede Shoes and the 3 songs the Beatles covered. So for me, this was a gamble, but it paid off. I mean, because I love 50s rock and roll, and they kept it simple, but not simple-minded, to steal from Cinema Therapy. Thanks, guys. Then Bob came along, and things got complicated.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, songs had to be about something important.
They have to mean something.
Which is fine up to a point. The problem was everyone thought they were Bob, too.
And they're not Bob.
But only Bob can be Bob.
Yep.
So, having said that, let's jump into this.
Oh, yes, let's. First track, Blue Suede Shoes, which, duh, of course they're going to start with that one. So yeah, we hear my dad listens to this are here to inform you that Blue Suede Shoes is not an Elvis song. It's Carl's, damn it, and he should have gotten more credit. There's even a scene in $1 Million Quartet, the musical, where he and Elvis get in a big fight about how Carl never got his due. But after listening to this, the original, to be honest, I can see why Elvis's was the one that really took off because his has more grit. And you totally believe him when he says, don't you touch my blue suede shoes because otherwise you'll get beaten over the head. But with Carl, well, he's just having a good time and partying. And there's nothing wrong with that. The man just really loves his shoes and wants to sing about them. Maybe it also means more when it's the one nice thing you own as well. I wonder how many shoes he was sent by fans. A rock classic where the cover is probably better than the original. Sorry, Carl.
The story, or the legend, goes that while Carl was playing at a dance, he noticed a couple dancing near the stage. Between songs, he heard the boy tell the girl not to step on his suede shoes. They were blue, and they had been scuffed. Carl wrote and recorded the song in December 1955. Sam Phillips convinced Carl to change Go Boy Go to Go Cat Go. Good change.
Works better, yeah.
Yep. The song came out in early 56, and 3 months later, it was at the top or near the top of the pop, country, and R&B charts. It went on to become a rock and roll standard and has been covered by countless artists. John Lennon's live piece in Toronto opens with his cover of the song. Elvis recorded it, but he asked RCA to delay the release so it wouldn't be competing with Carl's version as a favor to Carl.
Oh, wow.
And also another reason that he recorded it was because he knew that Carl would get the money for the songwriting because he was in the hospital and he knew
he needed the money. Yeah.
Now, Elvis's version is 1 minute and 58 seconds, which is 16 seconds shorter than Carl's original.
Huh.
And you listen to it and it's just frenzied. The man was in a hurry. And for me, both versions are great. If I had to pick one, I'd probably go with Elvis's.
Yeah, sorry, Carl.
I mean, they're both great. I have no problem with either one. But Elvis is, like you said, like he sounds like, you're going to get your clock cleaned if you even,
step on these, yeah.
Or go anywhere near them. And I think another reason that Elvis's is shorter is the way that it starts off with, it's 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, go cat go. Where Carl's is, it's 1 for the money, pause, 2 for the show, pause. Where Elvis is just like I said before, the man is just in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
In 1986, though, Carl's version was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame and included in the National Recording Registry of the Library of Congress in 2006.
Cool.
The plot, well, Carl tells us you can pretty much do anything to him, but, you can't
step on his blue suede shoes.
You can knock him down, step on his face, which is gotta hurt.
Yeah.
Commit slander against him, burn his house, steal his car, drink his liquor from an old fruit jar, which I guess can be pretty insulting. But the shoes, they're the best shoes.
Probably the only ones he owns.
Nope. Lay off. Lay off the shoes. Wasn't there a Seinfeld episode with the shoes? Elaine had those shoes.
There might be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then she had to end up giving up the shoes to get some sort of favor in return.
That sounds like Elaine. All right, next track, Honey Don't. The first version I ever heard of this was Ringo's cover at the concert for George, and I remember not liking it because I wanted them to get back to George's music. But this one is way better. For one, I just like the key Carl sings in. It just sounds more fun and pleasant to my ears. The story is Carl telling his girl not to mess with him because she's such a cute little thing who's messing around town. My favorite lyric is, well, I love you on a Saturday night, Sunday morning you don't look right, which I used to think meant, uh-oh, she's got a disease.
Well...
And even though it's probably not what that means, it's still a funny line to hear. Plus, that last guitar chord isn't absolutely perfect for an ending. Now we have one where the original is way better than the cover.
Mm-hmm. She says she will, then she won't. She's been painting the town, stepping around, and apparently she's been hitting the beach, what with the sand all over her feet. That's the only thing I can infer with that. Well, honey, don't. Just don't. Whatever it is you're doing, just don't. Which I'm assuming is the running around and maybe going to the beach without him. This was the B-side to Blue Suede, and it's just as good. With all these songs, Carl keeps things simple, short, and catchy, like all great early rock and roll. Now, the Beatles covered this with Ringo on lead vocals. It appears on Beatles for Sale. He urges George Harrison to rock on for Ringo, and George, of course, does.
Yeah.
Carl was a huge influence on George's playing.
Oh, yeah.
And Eric Clapton's, too, as well. Mm-hmm. But again, just can't figure out why he didn't ask Carl to be a Wilbury.
Hey, Danny and Olivia Harrison, who are probably never going to listen to this. If you ever know the reason behind this, tell us why.
Or anyone else out there, we need to know.
Yeah, we need the truth. Next track, Bop in the Blues. See, here's my issue with this song. To quote Bleeding Gums Murphy of The Simpsons, the blues isn't about feeling better, it's about making other people feel worse and making a few bucks while you're at it. Which is why I don't buy this song at all. Carl's just talking about how all he wants to do is bop to the blues instead of spending time with his girl because he needs to feel the rhythm in his body so bad. And I'm sitting here listening and thinking, what the hell kind of blues music are you listening to? Because I've never heard blues music made me want to dance, more so nod solemnly to the beat. It also feels like he's trying to have a repeat of Blue Suede Shoes in the sense that they're in the same key, but it falls kind of flat. So if you're looking for a good song that sings the blues praises, look for one that's a bit more tonally accurate.
Well, I don't agree with your viewpoint.
How shocking.
That's why we do the show, folks.
Yeah.
Well, I look at bopping the blues as like I don't want to say bopping him on the head, but he's trying to he's trying to dance his blues away because it says
okay.
it starts off with Carl's doctor tells Carl, you don't need no pills, just nickels for the jukebox. Mm-hmm. You know, to
dance to feel better.
To get his blues out of his system. My favorite line is, "I love you, baby, but I must be rhythm bound." Mm-hmm. Carl was a man of priorities. Sex and drugs might let you down, but not rock and roll. Mm. And to quote Chairman Pete Townsend, rock and roll might not solve your problems, but it does let you dance all over them.
That's very true.
Yep. Ricky Nelson covered this on his first album, and when he met Carl in 1985, he was a fanboy. Carl just could not get over Rick's reaction. But, yeah, that's how I kind of look at the song. And Bleeding Gum Murphy may have a point.
Yeah, he does.
Because I think, when you listen to the blues, you kind of realize either, oh, man, I feel like that, oh, wait a minute, this guy's got it worse than I do. Maybe it's not so bad.
Yeah.
You can go either way.
Next track, Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby. No, Google, this isn't the Beatles, get it right. Because it was Google had it as by the Beatles. And I'm like, no. But I can see why they'd cover it, considering it really applied to their situation. I wonder how much it applied to Carl's. He's successful, and suddenly there's all these women fawning all over him and trying to get a piece of the action. And Carl doesn't sound too happy about it. Even the music sounds angsty and sick of it, even though it's something you can dance to, which makes it all the more fascinating. I don't know if I like it, but I think it's interesting how a bummer of a situation is made into a rousing rock number.
Well, I think it's more the man just needs his rest. He's just being chased all over the place, and he just, give me 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes
to myself. Which, again, is why the Beatles covered it.
Yep. And would you believe it or not, but this song is actually a cover. It was written and recorded by Rex Griffin in 1936. Wow. But it went nowhere. Jump ahead 20 years later, and Carl also gets a songwriting credit as he came up with a different arrangement and made some lyric changes.
Oh, okay.
And Carl is the man. Just the way the song starts off. Well, he took some honey from a tree, dressed it up, and they called it me. 50 women knock on his door. He has 19 dates in one night. The man, he just needs a break. He just needs a rest. And yeah, I never thought of it that way with the Beatles, but yeah, I'm sure they were just please, just leave us alone. Just leave us alone, for God's sake.
Hashtag relatable. Yep.
The Beatles did cover this with George on lead vocals. Mm-hmm. And it's the last track on Beatles for Sale, which is the album where, if you look at the cover,
they're all exhausted.
They're just all wiped out from Beatlemania.
Which is why it's mostly covers, because I don't think they had any energy to write anything.
And also, if you look at the cover, you have to look really hard to find the title. It's somewhere up in the left corner region, and it just says Beatles for Sale, and that's it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't tell you who did the album, but it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just look like they're about to fall down.
They're burnt out. Next track, Movie Mag. How sweet! Carl's taking Mag to the movies on horseback. Mag is wondering why they only go to the movies for their date night once a week, and it's because, well, she's a shotgun dad and there's a barrel out back with Carl's name on it. This song wouldn't have been out of place on the Andy Griffith Show. It's really cute, and musically they managed to capture the clip-clop of a horse ride. It's very much sung by a sweetheart country boy, and it's adorable. That's a man you could bring home if only Daddy didn't have his gun. Like, also, what's the name of that family that Andy always plays music with? The guys who never talk, and the dad who has the jug. You know the one I'm talking about. I could see them performing this song.
Oh, yeah. Shoot, they were just on last week.
Yeah,
I forgot what they called themselves.
The daughter was Charlene, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Andy Griffith fans will know the family that we're talking about.
Oh
With
my
their
God,
jug band.
I'm blanking out
Hold on, I'll Google it. You talk.
because the father played the jug, and the brothers, the backing band was actually a real band called the Dillards.
You keep talking. I'll Google it.
Okay.
Oh, the Darlings. That's
Thank
it,
you, the Darlings.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, yeah, I could see that happening on an episode.
Yeah.
Riding up the horse to pick up Thelma Lou,
Yeah.
Barney on the horse, falling off the horse.
Shooting himself in the ass.
This was Carl's first single from January 1955, and this is a slice of real life, according to Carl. Where he lived, you did pick up a date on your horse and go to the movies, but his was like a horse and carriage, because, I don't know, but in the song he says, climb up on old Becky's back, so maybe they both had to ride on the horse. Maybe he got the carriage later.
Couldn't afford the
But
carriage.
yeah, that's how they would go to the movies. And he said, yeah, the father did keep a double-barreled shotgun on hand just in case, which has got to be pretty eye-opening. Because Carl, in the liner notes in the booklet, Carl was saying that, yeah, he just didn't keep that gun around for just like hunting,
No.
in general. It was like, you dating my daughter? You dating my daughter? You better start running.
Which, how sad is it about how those boys were raised that you need to have a shotgun in order to protect your kids?
This song is more country than rock and roll because, like we said earlier at the time, Sam just didn't think two of his artists should be doing rockabilly at the same time. And Paul McCartney did the cover in 1999 on his Run Devil Run album.
Okay. Next track, Sure to Fall. This would be a perfect first dance song for a wedding. Okay, it'd be a quick dance, but it'd be sincere. But dare I say it's one of the best rock love ballads of all time? It has an old school groove that a couple can sway to with some pretty harmonies and melodies between a tenor and baritone. Something tells me this was one of his most underrated songs because it wasn't a fast rock song, but it has heart and I love it so much. Beautiful and sweet.
This was released right after Blue Suede Shoes. And yeah, it's definitely more of a ballad. And Carl does not sing on it. That's his brother Jay on the vocals.
Oh, wow.
And Jay is sincerely pledging his love.
Jay's a really good singer.
Yeah, it's a really good song. The Beatles recorded a version for their Decca demo, the infamous one which an exec told Brian Epstein that guitar groups were on their way out. How'd that go? And Ringo released a version in 1981.
Aww.
And as we're going along, you notice the Beatles together in solo, they just keep going back to his
To
stuff.
Carl Perkins,
Yep.
yeah. Next track, All Mama's Children. Is this Carl Perkins for kids? Like, I think you could play this whole album for a kid, but it seems like a song he wrote specifically for kids. I mean, the opening is based on the old woman who lived in a shoe, but not just any shoe, a blue suede shoe. So Carl's giving us a little rock and roll Easter egg. And maybe also a reminder that he did the song first, so that way no one forgets, which they still forgot. Sorry, man. But all the kids are out of the shoe and all they want to do is rock. And there's a bit of restraint here, maybe so the music isn't as overwhelming and that way kids can dance to it. I don't know why, but it's definitely not Carl performing full out. It's still his signature good time, but one that doesn't really grab me as much due to him holding back.
Well, I look at this as like an update of the story of the old woman who lived in the shoe.
Yeah.
Because she takes the kids to town, and they start picking them up and putting them down, and now the kids want to live in the blue suede shoe. I look at it as the old, how are you going to keep them on the farm once they've seen Paris? You know? Definitely a fun song.
Do you think it's for kids, specifically?
I don't think so. I mean, it could be, but...
You could play this whole album for kids, though.
Yeah,
It'd
you
be
could.
fine. Next track, Perkins Wiggle. When I first read
Except
that...
maybe Dixie Fried, which we'll get to later.
Dixie Fried? Okay. Now, Perkins Wiggle. My first thought when I read the title, is there a dirty joke in here somewhere? Turns out no, but I'm not surprised that the Perkins Wiggle never caught on. It feels like Carl is trying to be commercial, trying to create a style of dance a la James Brown's Mashed Potato. He even has a bit of Elvis twang and vibrato at one point. And he stops calling it the Perkins Wiggle and just starts calling it the Dixie Bop. So, Carl, which is it? Make up your mind. A dance that doesn't really bop as much as it claims.
Well, no, it's the Perkins, doing the Perkins Wiggle with a Dixie Bop.
Oh, okay. But it still didn't catch on.
No, it didn't.
No.
This was a previously unissued track, and per Carl, Man, it should be against the law for people to put out this thing. We were so drunk a lot of the time.
Oh my God.
The Perkins Wiggle, like I said with the Dixie Bop, of course, should not be confused.
Confused and conflated. Confused.
Confound it. Should not be confused with the Lewis Boogie,
Okay.
which was Jerry Lee Lewis's attempt to have a dance named after him.
Did that go well?
It's a good song, but it wasn't a hit.
No.
I mean, because this was post marrying my 13-year-old cousin, which we'll probably get into someday if you ever pick
Overcome
Jerry
my
Lee.
fear. Yeah.
And I could almost make a case for this being a country song rather than a flat-out rockabilly or even rock and roll song. Not bad, though.
Okay. Next track. Put your cat clothes on. Goodbye, blue suede shoes. Hello, cat clothes. This feels like Blue Suede Shoes' little brother who can't quite live up to his brother's image. It still rocks with the piano and the guitar, and he's putting a lot of effort into it to sell it. But while the music is great, the lyrics don't really add much for me. I think if the lyrics were better, I'd be rocking with Carl a lot more. But as of now, I'm just waiting for the song to get better. It's just missing one ingredient that's preventing me from enjoying the final product, which is a bit of a bummer. Oh well, there's some other good ones on here.
Jerry Lee is on piano on this one. Who else?
Oh, that explains it.
You listen to that playing and you know exactly who it is. And Jerry Lee would also play piano on Matchbox, Your True Love, and You Can Do No Wrong.
Okay, those both make sense.
And I think on this song, Carl rises to the challenge of Jerry Lee's playing with a stinging solo. And the title pretty much tells all. I looked at it as the point of view as like he's telling his girlfriend, you know, put on your coolest clothes because we are stepping out. See? Simple. That's all it really is to this song. Like, hey, just get dressed and we're just going to go out and have a time.
The end.
Yep.
Next track, Matchbox. This could also be autobiographical, as Carl tells the story of a poor boy who wants to get with a girl while her big dog is away, which that lyric alone must have caused a ruckus. And honestly, I don't care if it's adultery. Good for Carl for getting some if he can. But his story is the one of his contemporaries. Dirt poor boys who suddenly wound up successful beyond their wildest dreams thanks to their guitar. He's got a long way to go, but he's going to try to be happy if he can. I wonder what the boy looking for a matchbox would have thought of Carl as an adult. I like to think he'd be happy, for the most part.
This song is based on a 1927 Blind Lemon Jefferson song called Matchbox Blues. Carl recorded his version in 1956. Now, he wrote it based on some of Jefferson's lyrics that Carl's father remembered. And Carl had never heard Jefferson's song. Jerry Lee Lewis, who was a session piano player at the time, played a boogie-woogie riff, and Carl joined in, improvising on the guitar and improvising the lyrics as well. The day Carl recorded Matchbox was also the same day the $1 Million Quartet convened.
Oh, okay.
Now, Jerry Lee also recorded Matchbox in 1958. And, of course, the Beatles recorded it in 1964 on their Long Tall Sally EP. Nowadays, you can find it on their Past Masters collection, which gathers all the non-album Beatle tracks.
And probably on their anthology as well.
Now, brace yourself. I don't want you falling out of your chair.
What?
Pete Best used to sing this live until he got sacked in '62.
Really? Is there footage of that out there somewhere?
I don't know, but when I was doing my research, this was his song. This was his moment to shine in the spotlight.
To quote Inspector Clouseau, not anymore.
Ooh. Then after Pete was gone, John was the one who sang it live. And Ringo sings on the studio version, and George Martin chipped in on piano. Now, poor boy Carl wonders if a matchbox would hold his clothes.
Aww.
He's a long way from home, can't do anything right, doesn't have any prospects, but he begs this girl to let him be her big dog till her real big dog comes along, and he can show him what this little puppy's done. The mind reels. Hopefully the big dog didn't come along and say, "Did you do that on the rug? Did you do that on the rug?
What did you just do? What did you just do? Am I going to have to rub your nose in that?
Oh,
God.
Great guitar work in this song, especially the opening.
Next track, Your True Love. Oh, wow, that opening guitar lick is great. There's so many notes layered in that. I don't know how he did it, but go listen and have your mind blown. Now, this is the first song where I could draw a direct line between Carl Perkins and the Beatles in terms of influence. First with the backup singers and their style of vocal harmony, honestly. Second with the repetition of the title. Third with the formula of title, lyrics, title, bridge, short instrumental, the end. I'm quite surprised that the Fab Four never covered this one. In fact, I wasn't thinking about the original so much as what the Beatles could have done with it. So it's an important track that shows Carl's influence in rock.
Mm-hmm. Yep, like you said, this is another song opening with stinging guitar work.
Mm-hmm.
Then things kind of settle down to the point that we get background vocals, which is highly unusual for a Carl Perkins song.
Yeah.
In fact, this is like the only one that has that type of backing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was unexpected. And it's not a bad song, though. Carl's guitar work, I think he's doing his best to unpretty up things a bit. And he does it pretty nicely. And Carl gives God some credit. When he made you, he made the most. Like, ah. Okay, Carl, what do you want?
Next track, Lend Me Your Comb. I read that title and I immediately thought of Baby It's Cold Outside, Say Lend Me Your Comb. Man, if you thought that line about the dogs was risque, everyone must have lost their minds when this came out. We catch Carl in the swept-up aftermath of sex with his date, and he needs her comb so that way they don't draw suspicion from her folks. He's a rascal, but a charming one. Think Tramp from Lady and the Tramp. Okay, now we're going to come to a part where enunciation is important. Okay, when he said sugar bug, right? With his southern accent, it almost sounded like sugar booger, which is what Jimmy Neutron's mom used to call him on the show, and that nickname always made me cringe. But put that aside and you have a fun song for a cocky rascal.
Well, I learned something today.
Yeah.
Sugar booger.
Blech. Yeah, I always hated that. You know,
Maybe that's where they got it from.
I don't know.
Carl and Jay duet on this one. And I never realized how hilarious the lyrics were until now. And like you said, Carl and Gal have been kissing up a storm, among other things. But it's time to take her home. And so he asks her to lend him her comb because his hair's a mess. And also because they need to look the same coming in as they did going out from her parents' home. Mm-hmm. And some tie straightening is also indulged. Ha!
Maybe also some buttoning too.
At least, he planned things ahead. It was like, okay, wait, let's put everything back to where it should be. Mm-hmm. Now we can go home.
Which shows how cooled off he is. The fact that he could, think logically about, okay, we need to do X, Y, and Z.
Well, once you get all that out of your system,
you come crashing back to reality, and it's like, okay, come on.
Yep. The blood starts flowing back to your brain again.
Yeah. Next track, Dixie Fried. I read that title, and I thought, oh man, now I'm going to want fried food. But it's not about fried food. It's about people either getting drunk or high or just losing their minds now that the cops have left. And the leader of the pack is Dan. Kind of like one of those grown-ups that the kids really respect because he's like them and not like their parents and is well-versed in the ways of having a good time. It's right out of a teeny bopper Greaser movie, only I'd probably watch this more than the Grease movie musical. Oh, who am I kidding? I don't mind watching the Grease movie every now and then, but it's still not my favorite. But I still watch Carl's movie, so if anyone wants to make Dixie Fried the movie, let's get on that.
This is a slice of rural life, which was pretty intense for listeners when this got released. Mm-hmm. This would be one of those places where the band was playing behind chicken wire, so they wouldn't get hit with beer bottles.
Oh, ow.
There's a scene in the original Blues Brothers movie where they show that where the Blues Brothers are on stage singing in some country bar and they're behind the chicken wire and the beer bottles are just flying at them.
That would have been funny if they could get Carl to have been one of the people to throw the beer bottles. That would have been a nice touch.
Yep, so they had the chicken wire and razor fights because
not those.
That was a thing. Because Dan in the song jerked out his razor, but he wasn't shaving.
Nope. I get what that means. Okay.
He was going to get crazy, but he still tells the cats to rave on and get Dixie Fried because the cops are gone. But they do show up because they do drag Dan away. But he defiantly tells everyone to get Dixie Fried as the police are doing so. So it's just like this crazy, crazy night, this crazy time. And yeah, the cops are taking me away, but everyone just still go nuts.
Mm-hmm. Next track, You Can Do No Wrong. Thanks, Carl. Carl is head over heels and he thinks this girl is so perfect that he'd let her walk all over him. Snatch his hat, tease his cat, rip his clothes, punch his nose, cheat at checkers and dominoes, even step all over his blue suede shoes, which, wow, he's really milking it. Nothing is off limits in the bedroom either, to which I say, are you sure about that, buddy? Because you might not be able to walk 6 ways to Sunday.
Watch out, Carl. She's got a razor.
Oh, no. I would enjoy this song more if I wasn't so worried for his safety. So here's a message to impart on our listeners. Even if they're the love of your life, Don't let them walk all over you. Keep your dignity, and if they trample all over it, GTFO. Have some standards, Carl.
This is kind of sort of a follow-up to Blue Suede Shoes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, because in this version, Carl tells the girl that she can step on his shoes. Like you said, snatch his hat, tease his cat, just abuse the living bejesus out of him because, allegedly she can do no wrong. Which I'm sure she probably took advantage of that.
Still doesn't feel right.
This was recorded in 1957, but didn't see the light of day until the 1970s. Good song, but a little calculated.
Okay. Well, I could see why. Next track, Glad All Over. This is like the first thrill of puppy love when you don't have the language for how you feel. All you know is, that feels great. It's Carl at his fluffiest, and his fluff is pretty darn good because it's sincere, full of love and happy. Let the man have his fun tripping over his own words all over this woman. And you know you're a good writer when you can write something light and fun without it coming across as saccharine or sweet or without people's inner cynics coming out. It says a lot about how he can write.
All right, now I'm going to burst your bubble because this was not written by Carl. This was written by, this was an old Tin Pan Alley song.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
Yeah. And this was from the movie Jamboree, which I guess Carl was in. And everything is all over in 1 minute and 41 seconds. And as the liner notes said, only Carl could make hot dang dilly kind of rock. But it's a fun song.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
Because even
cute.
it's hot dang dilly. I feel so silly. I'm sure anyone would sing hot dang dilly.
Yeah, they'd feel pretty silly.
Dilly.
Silly.
Dilly.
Silly.
Let's move on, shall we?
Okay, final track.
Okay.
Go on, go on, go on. I think this was the final song Carl sang in $1 Million Quartet with the curtain call, so it's fitting that this is the last one on the CD. Carl spots his girl across a crowded room and wants to go dancing because he loves her so much. It also reminds me of Shakespeare's Sonnet 130, My Mistress's Eyes Are Nothing Like the Sun, where he admits, yeah, she might not be conventionally beautiful, but she's my woman and she's beautiful to me, damn it. Yes, I just had Carl Perkins and Shakespeare in the same sentence and it works in this context. Come at me. Carl is a goner and you're happy for him.
Okay. This was recorded 6 months before Blue Suede Shoes, but people didn't know what to make of this song. I think it might have been a case of too much too soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
So Carl's got a BBW he's going to love with all his might. And she makes him feel gone, 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 Daddy.
BBW? Yeah.
Big, beautiful woman for those who don't know what that means.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else.
I'll find out what that is off the air, folks.
Yes.
I don't think it's probably appropriate from the look on my daughter's face.
No, not suitable for YouTube.
Okay. But yeah, it's a fun song.
Yeah.
And Carl is just in LUV love.
Overall, Carl Perkins is great. He's one of the early rock influences who gets overlooked, and frankly, it's rather a shame that he is. So do a little bit of research and take a history lesson by putting on the CD. Early rock was all about fun, and we could all use some fun right now. I feel like early rock can kind of get dismissed since it doesn't rock as hard as, say, Led Zeppelin or AC/DC, but you can still be mature and serious in your emotions while having a rip-roaring good time, and that's what Carl tries to do. Even if you don't like all the songs, you can appreciate the vibe he's creating for the audience, so pop this CD on and get ready to dance in your blue suede shoes.
It's interesting that you bring up that it doesn't rock as hard as Zeppelin or AC/DC. I think one of the things is because of just technology that was available at the time.
Oh, sure.
But I love this CD. I love all the 50s giants, and they're well represented in my collection, as you may find out or have found out.
Finding out,
and
yeah.
Yeah, this stuff is almost 70 years old. In a few more years, it'll be.
Yeah.
I think now it's like 66, 67. But to me, it still sounds fresh because, once again, they just kept it simple. It was just like 2 guitars, a bass, and drums, and they could crank out songs in less than 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. And you could dance to them all.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I recommend this as a must-have CD. But if you really can't be bothered, you at least have to have blue suede shoes in your collection. It's just very necessary. And you need to have both versions. You need to have Carl's and Elvis's.
Or at least listen to one of Carl's CDs. It doesn't have to be this one. Just listen to any of his albums, really.
Well, I think... I don't want to say this is all the Carl you need, but...
It's like most of it.
His son output is definitely the gotta-have stuff.
The quintessential stuff.
Exactly. I mean, there's this import label called Bear Family, who will put out like these ridiculously massive CD boxes of like, hey, it's a 10-disc box of Johnny Cash, or we've got every single song Jerry Lee Lewis did for Sun Records. And they put the time and care into them, but it's like you really got to love these artists because you're getting like over 200 songs minimum. And you're getting like,
everything.
As many takes that exist as possible of one song. But Bear Family, they've done it right. I don't know if they're still around, but that was always their specialty. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. You got to have at least have blue suede shoes. If not in your ears, then maybe on your feet, or vice versa.
Whichever you prefer. All right, as always, thank you for listening to the latest installment of My Dad Listens to This. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. If you follow me on social media, I post all the episodes there, and I can officially announce that pretty soon, because I'm still working on it, we will be uploading our episodes to SoundCloud. I am working on it. It's going to take some time because we have a huge library of episodes, but I am going to work on uploading them gradually. So if you want to listen to our episodes there, they should be up. I will make an announcement on my social media when they are. But also, if you're friends with my dad, email him what episode you want to listen to, and he can send it right to your inbox.
The old-fashioned way.
As always, thank you for listening to the latest installment of My Dad Listens to This. We will be back next time with another album to nitpick and gripe about. Dad, anything you want to say before we sign off?
Yes, you can do anything you want to do, but don't step on my Jackaroo and Chelsea boots because they're really nice.
Yeah, please don't. They are nice shoes. Take care, everybody. Bye.